My name is Douglas Harland. I'm 59 years old, and for 2 full decades I was the invisible guardian of Apex Sec Corp, one of the largest cybersecurity companies in the United States. While other colleagues sought spotlights and recognition, I preferred working in the shadows, protecting our digital infrastructure against breaches and failures. I was what they called the human firewall, the guy who made sure the company never became a headline for a security breach. During those 20 years, I built my career brick by brick, from the first server we installed in a garage in Austin, Texas, to becoming a $200 million annual corporation. I was discreet, meticulous, and my work spoke for itself. 0 major incidents in 2 decades, 0 data breaches, 0 critical downtime. To many, I was just the quiet veteran on the 3rd floor. If you enjoy cold-blooded revenge stories and plot twists that keep you hooked, subscribe to the channel now. We have 2 brand new stories every day, and each one is more impactful than the last. Apex Sec's founder, Robert Chen, always respected me. He understood that cybersecurity isn't marketing or showmanship. It's serious, technical work done by experienced people. Robert died unexpectedly of a heart attack at 52 last December. It was a shock to all of us. In January, the board of directors appointed Cassandra Vance as the new CEO. Cassandra was 42, came from a major consulting firm in Manhattan, and her experience was in cost optimization and process modernization. From day one, it was clear she saw the company through different eyes. To her, we were just numbers on spreadsheets, costs that could be cut. The first company-wide meeting she called was on a rainy Monday in February. Cassandra took the stage in the main auditorium, wearing an impeccable white suit, and began her presentation with colorful slides about operational efficiency and new strategic vision. "Folks, let's be honest," she said, gesturing to the giant screens. "Some positions here are, how can I put this, outdated. We need fresh blood, fresh perspectives. Cybersecurity isn't about paranoia and excessive controls anymore. It's about agility, about engagement, about being where our customers are." I was sitting in the 5th row, observing. My experience taught me to read between the lines. When an executive talks about outdated, they're usually targeting older employees. When they talk about fresh blood, they're preparing layoffs. When they talk about agility in cybersecurity, they don't understand the subject at all. In the following weeks, Cassandra began making her changes. She hired external consultants, young people in expensive suits who had never configured a firewall in their lives, but who spoke eloquently about digital transformation. They walked the hallways with iPads, taking notes and whispering among themselves. It was on a Thursday in March that I received the email asking me to come to her office at 3 p.m. I didn't need to be a fortune teller to know what was coming. 20 years of experience taught me to recognize the signs. I entered her office promptly. Cassandra was sitting behind a giant glass desk with a view of downtown Austin. She didn't offer me a seat. "Douglas," she said, without looking up from her laptop, "I'm sorry, but your position is being eliminated. We're restructuring the security department with a more contemporary approach." "Contemporary," I repeated. "And what exactly does that mean?" "We've hired someone who understands digital engagement, who knows how to communicate security in a way that resonates with new generations, someone who has an online presence, who knows the trends." She slid an envelope across the desk. "Your severance package is there. 6 months' salary, health insurance for a year. I think it's quite generous." I took the envelope without opening it. "And who is this person replacing me?" Cassandra finally looked at me. "Austin Rivers. He has a TikTok channel with over 500,000 followers. He makes videos explaining cybersecurity in fun and accessible ways. He's exactly the kind of profile we need." Austin Rivers, a TikTok influencer, 20 years protecting a company, and they replace me with someone who makes dance videos explaining what a strong password is. "I understand," I said, keeping my voice calm. "When would my last week be?" "Actually, today is your last day." The consultants recommend quick transitions to avoid internal resistance. I took a deep breath. The anger was there, burning in my chest. But 2 decades of handling crises taught me self-control. Emotional explosions never solve anything. Strategy does. "I'll need a week to document everything and do a proper transition," I said. "Critical systems, emergency protocols, administrative passwords. It's not something you transfer in one day." Cassandra shook her head. "Austin started yesterday. He said he prefers learning by doing. More organic were his words." Organic. I repeated the word like it was poison. "Cassandra, some of our systems use protocols I developed. There are intellectual property issues involved. Our legal team already analyzed it. Everything you created here belongs to the company. It's in the contracts." She was wrong, but it wasn't time to argue. "All right, I'll collect my things. Security will escort you. Standard procedure." Of course they would. 20 years of dedication, and I was leaving escorted like a criminal. But that was fine. They were about to discover what it means to dismiss real experience for social media charm. As 2 security guards accompanied me to my desk, one certainty was growing in me. This story wasn't over yet. In fact, it was just beginning. I collected my things in silence. 20 years of career fit into 2 cardboard boxes. Family photos, some technical books, a mug with the company logo that was now discarding me. The guards stood there, embarrassed. One of them, Mike, had worked with us for 15 years. "Sorry, Doug," he murmured. "Orders are orders." "I know, Mike. You're just doing your job." While packing my belongings, my brain was already working. 20 years protecting systems taught me one fundamental thing: always have a contingency plan. Always document everything. And always, always protect your most valuable assets. What Cassandra and her expensive consultants didn't know is that I wasn't just a regular employee. In 2018, during a critical project for the Department of Defense, I developed a set of unique encryption protocols. Protocols that became the backbone of APEX's entire security system. And following my lawyer's advice at the time, I registered the patents in my name. It was perfectly legal. The contract with the company allowed perpetual and royalty-free use, but the intellectual property remained mine. A small clause that went unnoticed by their legal team because, frankly, they never expected someone like me to leave. Before leaving, I quickly went to my computer. I had a few minutes while the guards chatted in the hallway. I opened my personal email and sent myself copies of all the technical reports I had produced in the last 2 years, especially those marked as critical supervision required. Because the truth is that APEXSec had several vulnerable points, breaches that I knew about, monitored, and kept under constant control, vulnerabilities that required monthly manual adjustments, custom patches, and, mainly, someone who understood the system architecture completely. In December, 3 months before my dismissal, I detected a new malware variant specifically targeted at security companies like ours. I wrote a detailed report, recommending immediate changes to authentication protocols. The report was sent to Robert Chen and the then IT director. Robert died before implementing the changes. The IT director was fired by Cassandra in January. In other words, I was literally the only person in the company who knew about this specific threat. There was also the issue of the main server, a $15,000 beast that I personally configured in 2019. The operating system was a customized version of Linux that I had modified. The firewall configurations were mine. The monitoring scripts were mine. And most importantly, the encryption keys were based on my patented protocols. Cassandra thought it was enough to hire a TikTok influencer to replace 2 decades of technical knowledge. Austin Rivers might have had 500,000 followers, but I doubted he knew the difference between a DDoS attack and a buffer overflow. I left APEXSec that Thursday with a strange feeling. It wasn't sadness or anger. It was anticipation, like watching a horror movie and knowing exactly when the character is going to open the wrong door. During the weekend, I received some messages on LinkedIn. Colleagues from other companies offering opportunities. "Doug, heard you left APEXSec. Interested in talking?" I thanked them politely. but said I was considering other options. On Monday morning, I called my lawyer's office, James Morrison. James and I have known each other for 10 years, since I registered my first patents. Doug, heard you left ApexSec. Everything okay? James, I need to talk to you about intellectual property, specifically about unauthorized use of patented protocols. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Can I come to your office this afternoon? Actually, I don't have an office anymore, but you can come to my house. I met James at 2 p.m. in the living room of my house in Cedar Park, a suburb of Austin. My wife Linda served coffee while I explained the situation. Let me see if I understand, said James, leafing through copies of the documents I had brought. They fired you but continue using your patented protocols, and they replaced you with a influencer? Exactly. And there's more. Here are the security reports I sent over the last few months, all warning about specific vulnerabilities, all recommending continuous technical supervision. James read in silence for a few minutes. When he finished, he was smiling. Doug, you have an airtight case here. If they suffered any security incident using your protocols without proper authorization, it's clear intellectual property violation. And if they ignored your technical alerts, well, that's corporate negligence. I don't want to sue anyone right now, I said. I just want to be prepared. Prepared for what? For when reality knocks on their door. James laughed. You're expecting something to happen? James, I've worked in cybersecurity for 20 years. I'm not expecting something to happen. I'm expecting something specific to happen. And when it happens, I want to have all the necessary documentation. During the following week, I meticulously organized all the documents. Technical reports, warning emails, patented protocol specifications, maintenance schedules. Everything printed, dated, and cataloged. Linda watched me working at the kitchen table, surrounded by papers. You seem very calm for someone who just lost their job, she commented. I didn't lose my job, honey. I just changed positions. How so? Before I was an employee. Now I'm an observer. On the internet, I started following Austin Rivers. His TikTok videos were interesting. How to create a strong password in 30 seconds. The 5 mistakes hackers hate. Free antivirus that really works. Each video had thousands of likes and comments from teenagers finding everything amazing. But when I watched his technical videos, I noticed something concerning. Austin wasn't incompetent, he was dangerous. He knew enough to sound convincing, but not enough to understand the real consequences of his recommendations. It was like a paramedic trying to perform heart surgery. 3 weeks after my departure, I received an unexpected call. It was Mike, the security guard who escorted me on my last day. Doug? Man, can I talk to you? It's about the company. Sure, Mike. What's happening? I can't talk over the phone. Can you meet me at the Starbucks on South Lamar? It's important. An hour later, I was sitting at a corner table, having coffee with Mike. He looked nervous. Doug, do you remember those alerts you used to send monthly about security checks? I remember. Why? The new guy, Austin, he said that was paranoia, that modern systems don't need so much manual monitoring. He disabled half the verification protocols. I felt a chill in my stomach, not from fear but from confirmation. There's more, Mike continued. This morning some computers started showing strange behavior, slow, freezing. Austin said it's normal, that the system is adapting to the new configurations. I thanked Mike for the information and went home. I sat on the porch, watching the sunset over Austin. I picked up my phone and called James. James, it's Doug. I think our wait is coming to an end. The call came on a Tuesday at 6:30 in the morning. It was Cassandra Vance. Her voice, normally controlled and authoritative, was trembling. Douglas? Sorry to bother you so early, but we have an emergency situation here. I sat up in bed, fully awake. Linda looked at me curiously. What kind of emergency, Cassandra? We were attacked. Ransomware. All our servers are down. Customer data. Jesus, Doug, it's a disaster. When did it happen? The breach started at 3 a.m. We discovered it at 5, when the first employee tried to access the system. Doug, I know things ended badly between us, but you know our systems better than anyone. Can we hire you as an emergency consultant? I'll pay whatever you ask. I remained silent for a few seconds, letting the tension build. Cassandra, you fired me less than a month ago. You said my methods were outdated. That Austin Rivers was going to modernize everything. I know. It was a mistake. Please, Doug. The entire company is at risk. Where's Austin? Another pause. He's trying to fix it, but it seems more complicated than we expected. Cassandra, I'll be direct with you. I can't help. Why? Because of money? I said I'll pay whatever you... It's not money. It's that, technically, I can't work on the systems without authorization from the owner of the security protocol patents. Complete silence on the other end of the line. What are you talking about, Doug? The encryption protocols you use? I developed them, and I own the patents. It's all documented. If you want my help, we'll need to discuss proper licensing. This is blackmail. No, Cassandra. This is intellectual property, something your legal team should have checked before firing me. I hung up the phone. Linda was looking at me with an expression between admiration and concern. That was cruel, she said. It wasn't cruel. It was educational. 2 hours later, James Morrison called me laughing. Doug, you won't believe this. I just got a call from ApexSec's legal department. They want an emergency meeting to discuss intellectual property issues. Seems like someone finally read the patents. And you're available for that meeting? Of course. But I warn you that my fees for emergency consultations are substantial. During the day, my phone didn't stop ringing. First it was Mike from security, saying the situation was chaotic. Employees being sent home, clients calling desperately, executives panicking. Then it was a journalist from the Austin Business Journal. Mr. Harland, I heard you worked at ApexSec until recently. Can you comment on the cyber attack they suffered? No comment, I replied. But I can recommend that you investigate whether the company properly followed recommended security protocols. In the afternoon, I received an unexpected visit. Austin Rivers was at my door. In person, he looked even younger than in the videos. He must have been about 28, disheveled hair, startup t-shirt, that artificial confidence of someone who's never faced a real crisis. Mr. Harland, I'm Austin. Can we talk? Sure, come in. He sat on the living room couch, clearly uncomfortable. Look, I know the situation is complicated, and I know you have issues with the company, but I need your help. I don't understand some of these legacy systems. Legacy systems? I repeated the phrase. Austin, these legacy systems protected ApexSec for 15 years without a single major incident. I know. I didn't mean to disrespect, it's just, man, it's all so complex. The documentation is huge, and now with this attack... Tell me about the attack. Austin rubbed his face with his hands. It started with some targeted phishing emails. Normally our filters would catch them, but it seems someone disabled some checks. Someone disabled them, or you disabled them? I thought they were redundant. They were slowing down the processing of legitimate emails. I took a deep breath. It was exactly what I expected. Austin, do you remember the reports I left when I departed? About specific vulnerabilities? Yes, but there were many, and very technical. I thought with the system updates... Did you read the reports? Some. I started reading them. What was the main recommendation of the last report I wrote? Austin fell silent, clearly not knowing the answer. Austin, the last report I wrote specifically warned about a new ransomware variant targeted at security companies. I recommended keeping all verification protocols active, especially in email filters. You not only ignored the recommendation, but did exactly the opposite. How was I supposed to know you weren't there anymore to explain? It was all explained in the report, in detail, with examples, with step-by-step instructions. Austin stood up, agitated. Okay, I screwed up. But now I need to fix it. Can you teach me to reverse what was done? I can't. Why? Because the protocols you're using are patented by me. Any modification without authorization is intellectual property violation. And considering you fired me and now have a massive security incident using my protocols, well, that's a serious legal problem. Austin left my house visibly desperate. Half an hour later, Cassandra called me again. Doug, what do you want? Money? Your job back? Tell me what you want. Cassandra, I don't want anything. You need to solve your own situation. But you're the only one who can help. No, I'm the only one who could have helped. If you had kept me, or at least followed my security recommendations, now it's too late. This is revenge. You're getting revenge. No, Cassandra. These are consequences. You confused experience with obsolescence. You confused caution with paranoia. And now you're paying the price. On Wednesday, the story leaked to the press. ApexSec Corp suffers massive cyber attack, customer data compromised. The Austin American-Statesman published a detailed article about the incident. And of course, someone leaked to journalists that the company had recently fired its senior cybersecurity specialist. Austin Rivers disappeared from social media. His TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn profiles were deactivated. It seemed the security influencer wasn't prepared to deal with real security. On Thursday, I received a call I was expecting. It was David Morrison from ApexSec's board of directors. I had known David for years. He was one of the company's original investors. Doug, we need to talk in person. Sure, David, when and where? Can you come to the office this afternoon? Say 5 o'clock? I can. At 5 sharp, I was in the ApexSec board meeting room. Present were David Morrison, 2 other board members, and the company's legal director. Cassandra Vance wasn't there. Doug, David began. First, I want to apologize for what happened. The decision to fire you was hasty. Thank you, David. Second, we want to make an offer. We want you back. Not as a regular employee, but as Director of Strategic Security. 5 times your previous salary, equity in the company, your own budget for your team. I pretended to consider the proposal. And Cassandra? Cassandra is no longer part of the company as of today. And Austin Rivers? Also not, should never have been hired. And about the patent issue? The legal director spoke up. We're prepared to negotiate a retroactive licensing agreement. We acknowledge there were misunderstandings about intellectual property. I looked around the table. Powerful men, begging for my help, after treating me as disposable. I accept, I finally said, under some conditions. My conditions were simple, but non-negotiable. First, complete control over all security infrastructure, without external interference. Second, a $2 million budget to rebuild the department. Third, veto power over any decision affecting cybersecurity. And fourth, a formal licensing agreement for my patents with retroactive payment for the last 3 years of use. David Morrison nodded to each condition. Done. When can you start? Tomorrow, 7 a.m. Great. Oh, Doug. Can you recover the data from the attack? I smiled for the first time in weeks. David, I designed redundant backups that I didn't even fully document myself. Of course I can recover the data. On Friday morning, I returned to ApexSec. But now things were different. Executive secretary, my own office on the top floor, view of downtown Austin, and most importantly, absolute respect from all employees. The first thing I did was a meeting with the entire IT team. There were 12 people, mostly young, all visibly relieved by my return. Folks, I began, let's forget everything that happened in the last month. It was a nightmare, but we woke up. Now let's work. Sarah Chen, one of the most talented developers, raised her hand. Doug, the customer data, can we recover it? We can. All data is in encrypted backups I created in 2020. 3 different locations, including one on offline servers that even Austin didn't know existed. Collective sigh of relief. But before recovering everything, let's strengthen the system, completely. We're going to implement the protocols I developed over the years, but never had the budget to install properly. We worked 16 hours a day for 2 weeks. I installed AI-based intrusion detection systems, quantum encryption protocols, adaptive firewalls. I transformed ApexSec into the most advanced cybersecurity company in Texas. During this period, news about the incident continued to reverberate. The Austin American-Statesman published a detailed investigation titled, "How a Security Company Became a Victim of Its Own Arrogance." The article told the whole story: the dismissal of the experienced specialist, the hiring of the incompetent influencer, the ignored alerts, the predictable attack. Cassandra Vance became a pariah in the corporate world. I heard from third parties that she was having difficulties finding another executive position. Every time her name appeared in Google searches, the first thing that came up was CEO who fired security specialist before cyber attack. Austin Rivers simply evaporated. All his social media profiles remained inactive. I heard rumors that he had moved to Portland and was working as a bartender, trying to rebuild his life away from technology. 3 months after the attack, ApexSec had not only completely recovered but was stronger than ever. Our clients, impressed with the speed of recovery and the new security protocols, began increasing their contracts. Revenue grew 40% in the last quarter. In December, almost a year after Robert Chen's death, ApexSec was recognized by the Cybersecurity Excellence Awards as Texas's Cybersecurity Company of the Year. I was on stage receiving the award when I realized the perfect irony of the situation. A year before, I was considered obsolete. Now I was celebrated as a visionary. During the acceptance speech, I maintained my usual tone: calm, technical, without drama. Cybersecurity isn't about trends or social influence, I told the audience of executives. It's about deep knowledge, real experience, and the humility to understand that in our field, there's no margin for error. Every system we protect represents the trust of thousands of people. This responsibility isn't learned in 30-second videos. The audience applauded, but I wasn't speaking to them. I was speaking to any CEO who might be thinking about trading experience for charm. A few weeks later, I received a LinkedIn message. It was from Cassandra Vance. "Doug, I know I have no right to bother you, but I wanted to apologize personally. You were right about everything. I made huge mistakes, and mainly, I was unfair to you. I hope you can forgive me someday." I thought a lot before responding. I could ignore it. I could be cruel. I could rub in her face all the consequences of her decisions. But I decided to be better than that. "Cassandra, thank you for the message. We all make mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them. I wish you luck in your career." Short response: professional, without resentment. Because the truth is, I no longer needed revenge. Justice had already been done. Today, 2 years later, I'm Vice President of Strategic Security at ApexSec. My team has grown to 25 people. We've implemented protocols that are studied in universities, and we haven't had a single major incident since I returned. Cassandra Vance finally got a job as operations director of a mid-sized company in Dallas. From what I know, she's much more cautious now with layoffs and hiring. It seems she learned her lesson. Austin Rivers never appeared in the tech world again. His social media profiles remain inactive. Sometimes I wonder if he learned anything from all this, or if he just ran from responsibility. But the most important lesson wasn't for them. It was for me. I learned that silent competence can be confused with obsolescence by people who don't understand the difference between depth and surface. I learned that experience can't be replaced with charisma. And I learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't the one you plan, but the one you allow to happen naturally. Because when inexperienced people make decisions based on appearances, the consequences are inevitable. You don't need to get revenge. You just need to wait for reality to do the work for you. Linda still laughs when she reminds me of that morning when Cassandra called me desperately. "You seemed so calm," she says, "as if you already knew exactly what was going to happen." And I did know. 20 years protecting systems taught me that when you remove layers of protection, when you ignore alerts, when you replace expertise with marketing, collapse isn't a possibility. It's a certainty. The difference between a specialist and an amateur isn't just knowledge. It's the ability to predict consequences and having the patience to wait for them to manifest. Today, when young professionals ask me for career advice, I always say the same thing. Build real competence. Document everything, and never underestimate the power of being right and being able to prove it. Because in the end, truth always surfaces, and when it does, it's better to be on its side. If you enjoyed this story, like, share, and leave your comment telling us what you thought. And if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe and hit the bell to receive notifications of new stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.